stick with me here. Within an hour of posting this, okay, maybe an hour and a half, they go completely dark. When I say I say Stuart and Dave Sliker deleted their social media.
Wake up and win. Wake up and win. Wake up and win. Wake up and win. Wake up.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Wake Up and Win podcast with Christina.
Hello,
the
everyone.
Beautiful Christina, and me, Blaise. Good to see you guys again. For those of you who've been following along, we have been covering the IHOPKC Mike Bickle scandal, whatever you want to call it, for the past couple weeks, I guess, or I guess it's been about 10 days. And we've gotten a lot of traction where people are commenting and asking a lot of questions and saying a lot of things. And if you're just joining us, okay, we run an insurance agency. This is not what we had in mind, actually, that we were going to do with our podcast. However, my background, you say, why are you covering this? My background was in 15 years of ministry full-time, and 4 of those years were full-time at IHOPKC. 3.5 of those years were working closely, weekly, with one of the people you see on stage handling the statements to defend IHOPKC and Mike Bickle. You say, what do you mean to defend? Well, we'll get into that. And also being pulled into rooms to be talked to upon my departure from IHOPKC, where there was situations that actually were admittedly handled wrong from my part, but also from their part. And then reconciliation was made in 2018, 2019. And then to come out to this now to where it's just blowing up. And I'm going, I actually need to talk about this. We've received so many messages where people have said, please keep talking about this, even from people that are very closely related to the Bickle family and to the situation as a whole. Thank you for your voice. Please keep talking about this. It's really helping us get through this, because most of the information that people are receiving is from news stories or from statements from stage. So why is it important, Christina, before we get into kind of what we talk about today, why do you think it's important for information to come out or to be talked about beyond just what's on a statement from the stage at IHOPKC?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like ideally none of this would be happening. Anyway, we wouldn't be talking about this. And if it was handled appropriately from the beginning, then we wouldn't be. We wouldn't have to, because the leadership team would have been transparent and honest from the beginning, and you could trust that what they were putting out is true. But for people who are saying, like, wait and see, trust the process, trust Jesus. Like, I mean, obviously we trust Jesus, but what does that have to do with this? You know, I feel like people who are only wanting to hear from the IHOPKC leadership team, it doesn't make sense because of how it's had been handled so far. I wish it were different, and then we wouldn't be doing this.
Let's break that down, though, that statement. Those who say trust Jesus, trust the process. Like, I had one girl say, this is not helping people that have been victims. Like, you need to stop talking about the way it's being handled. This is literally what she said. I've been abused in the past, which I said, I am so sorry for that. But she said, talking about this is not helping the victims at all. I said, actually, I'm in communication with somebody working directly with victims, sexual abuse victims of Mike Bickle. Okay, you're not going to hear that from stage at the ELT, at IHOP's executive leadership team. You will not hear that. But I'm in contact with people actually working with those individuals, okay? And this person said to me, keep talking, because the information needs to pressure them. Do you think systems and organizations that are corrupt should be handling all the information flow of the investigation of that organization?
Right, of course not. And I want to say too, we're not just talking about it. We're not just like, oh, let's just have a conversation. I mean, we are having a conversation about it, but we're not just talking about it, talk about it. We're talking about it for the people who are seeking truth. We're talking about it for the people who do want to know what's going on, but maybe they haven't seen everything that's been posted, and maybe they've only heard the statements that IHOPKC has put out, but they can see something's off. They can see something's a little bit sketchy, and they're like, what is the truth here? What is going on? People who are seeking the truth. That's it.
Yep.
Just seeking the truth. And that means you're going to have to look outside of just a statement from IHOPKC, because there is more to the story, and that's all we're bringing to the table.
That's what we're bringing to the
is
table.
More of the story.
And we get these comments like, oh, 2 millennials. Well, first of all, it's debatable whether I'm a millennial, okay? Some people say I'm a Generation Xer. Some people say I'm definitely a millennial, 1982 November. So I grew up on MTV, but whatever. Well, you 2 millennials, what do y'all know? Another lady said, y'all only been married 9 years. Y'all don't know nothing. Y'all shouldn't be talking about this.
I'm like, how long do you have to be married to know that sexual abuse in the church
from
is not
a pastor is not a good idea? You know what? If we were silent on some of these issues, somebody else would hopefully take up the torch and speak out. But the fact of the matter is, you can't be silent when you start to know things. And one other guy said, oh, you have inside information that nobody else has. Sounds like Gnostic heresies of old, like private information that only comes from God. I'm like, no, this ain't no vision, bro. I didn't have a vision of this. Literally talking to people that are dealing with victims. And then others say, well, give me the details. I'm not going to air somebody else's dirty details. Like, why would I be doing that? That's actually what's not helpful. And I do think, however, that things will be coming out with published articles that will likely be airing those things. And that's where the concern is for victims, is like, if somebody truly has been victimized and they have a story to tell, others would say, well, why doesn't it go to the police? Well, we get so much here. I don't want to detract from where we're going, but I would say this: sexual abuse and spiritual abuse are 2 different things. However, when you commingle those things, it gets real messy, right? For instance, spiritual abuse, like if you are spiritually manipulated by someone over a time to think that, well, they're my leader and I just have to listen to everything that they say.
Also, if you feel like somebody hears directly from God,
right,
better than maybe you do, then you're going to listen to them.
Okay, yeah, let's do
right?
that. Yeah, so let's say somebody, just hypothetically, someone's 15 years your elder, maybe 20. They have a track record in history of being an incredible Bible teacher. Now, some of you out there might go, Mike Bickle's not an incredible Bible. Whatever you want to think about his theology, that's not the debated subject here. But many people did love his Bible teaching. And he's a clear teacher. He's got a clear teaching gift. So he knows way more of the Bible than you do. Then he's literally interconnected with these prophet guys, and he's having these prophetic visions and dreams, and you trust him in that realm. If you find yourself in a sexually compromising position with that person, what do you do? Well, why don't you just leave? Okay. Yeah. Tell that to the person in that situation. That's completely an irrelevant statement. And that's what people think. Well, but this thing is so intermingled with sexual abuse and spiritual abuse that people could actually think, well, I don't know if I was victimized. I don't know. I did this. You know what I mean? All right. Maybe I consented. I don't know. So it's not a matter of, in most of these types of scenarios, oh, were you raped? It's like, likely that's not the case. It's probably a lot more nuance than that. Secondly, you go, what's the problem then if you can't get legal on it? Well, the problem is that if it's allowed to be protected by the current ELT, which remind me, I want to talk about the statements from the other former ELT, because that's very, very important. But if this is allowed to be protected and to go on, then you just get a bunch of legal on it, meaning like lawyers and settlements, and then all of a sudden it just goes on. And your kids now turn 19, 20 and end up going out there too. And then their kids end up going, like, it's perpetuating a system that has multiple. If you read if you listened to our last episode 2 episodes ago about Julie Royce article, Nancy Hester received 40 to 50 text messages about IHOPKC leadership mishandling sexual abuse situations. You say 40 to 50. Yeah, 40 to 50. Let's just say half of those are true. That's a mess. They need reform, but they didn't listen whenever GraceNet did their investigation in 2018. They didn't even take their recommendations. So thus, here we are. mention real quick, like the trust factor. So people say, why are y'all speaking about it? Like, we just want to hear the statements and we'll let them figure it out. Okay. Well, we're speaking up for the former ELT that's given statements. Talk about those statements for a second, and we don't have to read through the whole things, and the importance of who to trust. Do we trust the ELT on stage, or do we trust the former ELT that's not disgruntled, still walking with God, awesome people, but have strong statements? Go ahead.
Well, like you said, we did cover this in the first one, but for people like just hopping on, the first initial public statement from October 28th, 2023, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I want to respond to people who are also saying like the Matthew 18,
Matthew 18, show up and
literally
confront
what they
him
said.
first.
It said, let me skip. It says, prior to meeting with the leadership team at IHOP, we attempted to bring the allegations and the testimony of one of the victims directly to Mike Bickle. These men wanted to meet with Mike Bickle. They wanted to go
When you say
straight
these
to
men,
the
who?
source. These men, Dwayne Roberts, Brian Kim, Wes Martin.
Two of those people, at least Dwayne, started the House of Prayer with Mike Bickle. He was there from the beginning. Brian Kim was a ELT leadership team member. So was Wes Martin, an ELT leadership team member, and led Forerunner Church for a while. These are not like low-level disgruntled employees, okay? These are like guys that were at the right hand of this guy. You go, oh, well, yeah, they're just backstabbing him. No, they went to him with the testimony of a woman that said she had been abused by him. So what happened?
And then it said, however, we were repeatedly rebuffed by Mike Bickle and we were refused any sort of meeting. Instead, Mike used manipulating and intimidating tactics toward the victims to isolate them and discredit them. So that was the response. That is like, I just don't understand the people who are like, oh, just wait, let's see what happens. Did you guys read this?
No, they didn't read it. And
do you think all three of these guys are just making this up? Like, why?
It's like Rick Joyner's statement was like basically made them, he used the allegory of Absalon versus David. He's like, they're like Absalom. They want to take David's son. These guys don't have a dog in the fight. They got their own church. They don't want to take over IHOPKC. And
I want to say one more thing,
just
about where we're coming from, because
my coffee all over me.
Just about us and where we're coming from, because I think it's important too, because so many people are being like, oh, it's all these like burnt IHOP people who are just trying to like tear everything down and just want to see everything, aren't even Christians anymore, all this stuff. Well, just so you know, if it matters to you at all, we actually are still Christians. We love Jesus. We go to our local church. And I actually even still believe in spiritual authority. I see the value in a spiritual mentor. And I do believe in respecting your leaders, but not when they're covering up a sex scandal. Like that's where I draw the line. Would seem to be
pretty normal. That's a pretty good evaluation.
That's where I draw the line. So that's where we're coming from. If that like makes any difference to you.
Yeah, and I mean everybody's got their issues, right? We all carry our baggage, but if it's any, if it matters at all. I literally sent emails to Stuart Greaves and Dave Sliker, the two guys that you see on stage continually giving statements about this. Statements that we'll get into here. Saying, hey, sorry I had a fallout with you guys in 2013. I wish I would have dealt with that better. And it was just a theological fallout. That's really all it was. And then just the way it was handled. But I'm literally like, hey, sorry about that. And they're like, we're sorry too for our part. You know what? We're all growing. Like literally just humble, honestly, it was just awesome. I was like, oh, cool. This is so great. You remember that, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it was like, it caused so much healing in my heart through that process. And then I started to be like, hey, we should listen to some Mike Bickle here and there, Right. And so everything was, up to literally 3-4 weeks ago, I was texting Stuart to like reconnect when he's in the Carolinas. So when this came out, it was devastating to me. What is the level of acceptance of this? Number one, for me, this is absolutely impossible. It's totally bunk. These are likely false allegations to try to discredit Mike Bickle, who is very influential right now in prayer for Israel and this, that, and the other. That was number one. And two, just because he's like literally the type of guy that you just go, there's no way on earth. A list of 500 pastors that could do this, he would be 501. I'd be like, it's not happening. Whew. Second step was, okay, these statements from IHOPKC are very concerning. They're not denying this from stage, and they're not denying it, but they're not. This is really weird. What's happening? Like literally, oh, I trust that. That's Stuart Greaves. I like him and Dave Slyker. Like, what are they saying right now? Then Dean Briggs, a former IHOP ELT member, stands up and calls them out to their face. We might want to replay that video too.
We're not going to be hosting EGS tonight.
I have, as you know, I've been on the ELT ever since September 9th or something far less than this. I do not consider this an acceptable level of transparency. In a room full of faithful witnesses, I'm being a faithful witness to my brothers. There is more to be shared, and what David just said is well-intended, righteous bull.
I second that.
And I believe that you need to address this in a different way, with a greater degree of transparency, or this is not going to be a trustworthy process.
Calls him out to their face. He was an ELT member that worked with Mike right hand in behind the scenes. Calls him out guys, I was in IHOP for almost 5 years. No one ever stands up and yells at the guy on stage. This dude stood up and said, I'm a former leader. Y'all all know me here, but this is righteous BS, that language you're using. There's way more to say. I'm going, okay, wait, this is unsettling. Then Alan Hood. Now give me, like, guys, Alan Hood, I love Alan Hood. Okay, I love this guy. He was literally the leader of IHOPU, where I was a teacher for a portion of time. He led, he preached all the time. This guy was like a spiritual son of Mike Bickle and was there from the beginning. The man is probably about, late 40s or early 50s, something like that. I'm not good picking people's
Always
age.
guessing people's ages.
I know. I'm like, the guy's like 75. I mean, he is an elder. No, but I mean, he is like, he's awesome guy. He actually came out and connected with Chad, our pastor, and preached at our church. And after he had left IHOP, but former staff member, not jaded by it at all, but literally he comes out with a statement. This man is a sharp dude. In his statement, he says, we are currently working through healing with one of the victims from Mike Bickle. We're working through and we're called, this is my statement, and this is it, and we're working through the healing with one of these people. So when you guys tell me to, trust the process, or just let the process work itself out, just trust the legal, are you freaking kidding me? Like, look, I get legal, but like, you can't just sit around and trust lawyers and trust people that are just gonna they all have a dog in the fight. So my question to all of you that are telling us to shut up and just let this happen.
By the way, real quick, for the record, most people aren't.
No, it's true. There's maybe two people.
There's a couple people who are like being mean, but most people are like, oh, thanks for sharing this. I didn't even know that. I didn't see that. All I saw was IHOPKC's statement. Or we actually have had people who are like, I am a victim of abuse, and this is really helpful. So
exactly.
The majority, I'm going to say
majority.
like 85%.
Yeah,
is
honestly, probably out of 100 comments, 5 are like, 95
or like,
thank you.
Don't know what you're talking about. You're a millennial hipster.
Hey,
I'm like,
look,
thank you.
She's not a hipster.
I'm like, I was having a rough day. I hadn't showered, was feeling like a frumpy mom, and you said I was a hipster, so that made my day. Thank you.
And you called me a millennial, and I thought I was Gen X, so I mean, I'm feeling good too. So my point is that you can either trust the men on stage that are in the current ELT covering for the whole situation, or you can trust the guys that are currently public statements. There's 4: Alan, Brian, Wes, and who's the other one? Dwayne. 4 public statements. So who do you trust? And then I also know of another statement that has not been made public because it's not supposed to be made public. But I know there's many others that are former ELT members and insiders at IHOP that are not just disgruntled former employees that have legitimate statements about this that are saying this needs to be looked into and dealt with because it's real. That on top, we've also received all kinds of messages since we started doing this. Hey, here's my experience. Here's what I saw when I was there. Here's what I saw working with these individuals. And in the process, we've also received, I don't even know if we can say, but we've received some like literally, I'll just say this. We've received recordings of conversations with people that
That are lying to you.
that are lying to you. And they are people that you're hearing from stage. We're hearing the recordings of the conversations, and that's all we can give to that. And you go, why? Well, because like I'm not gonna break anyone's trust here. But at the end of the day, we're hearing this stuff and we're like, holy crap. Well, that's bad. So you're being lied to for the most part. Let's real quick get into Ben Anderson's.
Yes, let's talk about this because this stuff is public information.
Yep.
That anybody can.
Because that's
find
what
and see.
that's what we want to focus on is the public information that you can use your own eyes to make your own. There it is.
Yeah, I was going to say, first let's read IHOP's statement about choosing a new law firm. Because since last time we did one of these, they have switched gears a little bit.
So this was, let's see. All right, so third parties have claimed, this is IHOPKC 4 days ago. Third parties that claim to represent alleged victims have communicated a lack of trust in the national law firm IHOPKC engaged to lead the inquiry. After careful consideration, our leadership team has decided to not proceed with Stinson LLP and instead has retained a local KC law firm to conduct interviews with alleged victims. That local firm has already begun outreach to the few alleged victims whose identities are known, as well as the individuals claiming to represent anonymous Jane Does. IHOPKC is committed to investigating any allegations of abuse in our organization in a way that honors privacy, safety, and due process. It is our sincere desire to serve and assist every alleged victim in order to see truth and light come forth during this sensitive and challenging time. What is your impression of that statement?
Well, right away, initially, I was like, let me look at it really quick. The lack of trust in the national law firm. It wasn't even lack of trust in the national wasn't the word there. It wasn't like, oh, you guys are using a national law firm. Like that wasn't the problem. It's the law firm in general. So then instead they switched to a local law firm.
And don't name it.
And also it's like, it's still a law firm. All of the points everyone made about not wanting it to be Stinson, all of those points are still valid with this new law firm. So every statement that I see, it gets more and more like insulting. I feel like it is insulting to the IHOPKC community to word this in a way to make it look like you're listening to them and you're changing for them and this is like helping. You're doing what they're asking. It's like so insulting to like read it and be like, that's literally not what anyone said. That's not what anyone asked. You're doing the exact same thing. So it's like making people think you're listening, but really you're not listening at all because now you just hired a local law firm, which means these people are going to talk to people who are actually even closer to the situation, closer to IHOPKC, know some of the leadership, know some of the victims probably. Like, how is that helpful? It's just like,
what a mess.
I just don't understand who writes these and who approves them and is like, that's a good idea. That's going to make everyone feel really safe and taken care of whenever
I said this last time. But with what I know now, and just with what's public information, being it from Alan Hood and Dwayne and all these guys, just the public information and public information that's out there in posts, all this stuff. Like if you're in the ELT and you are working this process to basically, if you're still in the ELT, you either should demand reform today or just resign now. Like you should resign. Why? Because I feel like from what I've heard, even from that recording, it is known that Mike has done some of these things, if not many, many of these things. It is known that Mike has been a sexual predator. So that is the case. That's what's gone on. That will come out. But the problem is if that's slow rolled to come out and then couched in all kinds of, what is it? The language that just kind of diminishes the impact, then he'll remain, we got to restore it. And he'll remain in ministry. And that community will perpetuate this problem in the future. So I really think that people need to make some bold statements here by putting in a resignation. If you know anything if you know that this is true, that it's happened, then like You need to stop acting like you don't with these kind of like soft statements. Well, we'll just, and I said this last time too, but the body of Christ should not be subject just to lawsuits and law firms to figure this stuff out. Like NDAs, maybe, who knows why people aren't saying things publicly. But like the body of Christ should be subject to the law of the Lord, which is the word of God. I mean, just like even practically, it just seems so obvious that if you know that Mike has had inappropriate sexually compromising situations that have compromised his marriage, plus many others marriages, and plus put younger people in positions of feeling pressured to do sexual things, etc. If you know these things, then you should just out with it and say, yeah, he's not coming clean. He's not repenting. Clearly, he's not repenting. Well, he's not allowed to do social. The man's allowed to do whatever he wants, but he doesn't want to because he doesn't want to repent. He doesn't want to because it affects the ministry that he's built for this many years. He rebuffed the ELT that came to him with this in a Matthew 18 style way. So now, like Joel Richardson said to me in a message, he said, dude, it's the law of the jungle now. It's a people's revolution because they wouldn't listen and you wouldn't do the right thing. So like, I don't have a dog in the fight. I don't have a ministry to lose. Like, I don't have a ministry to lose. I know Joel Richardson, guys like that, people that actually speak up, they're going to lose ministry following because they're speaking out against a national leader in a national ministry. I don't have a dog in the fight. I'll say this is the most corrupt thing I've ever seen in my entire life. I'm a young 40, but like I've seen some things, and in ministry, I'm going, this is the most corrupt thing with people that I've worked with closely. And I believe that they could be involved in some sick, disgusting cover-up and corruption. And do the right thing. Do the right thing for your conscience. Do the right thing for your eternity. Do the right thing for the community. It just, come on, like, out with it. So let's get into Ben Anderson, and then we'll shut this one episode down. So that's the thing about the new law firm, but it didn't say anything about who it was. Okay, so you understand, it didn't say anything about the new law firm. It just said we've contracted a local firm, right?
Right.
So this guy, Ben Anderson, I don't actually know who it is, but we're friends on Facebook apparently, and you know it's bringing out all the IHOPKC connections.
Right.
As this has started to happen. So anyway, he finds online a picture. Let's see. Let's just read it. Since IHOPKC announced last night they'd be appointing a different law firm, but didn't tell us who it was, we'll tell you for them. Allow me to introduce Audrey Manito. And she is an attorney in Kansas City. And then he found a post from 2020 that he put up of Audrey Manito posting a picture of the Sliker family and a quote from Dave Sliker.
Yeah, an article from
and
his
an article.
website.
So she shared an article of Dave Sliker's, which
So she's a fan.
she's a fan of
Or
Dave
friend.
Sliker, which is fine, except for the fact that she's supposed to be a third party that represents victims of the person that's being accused of sexual abuse that is above Dave Sliker, that Dave Sliker is giving out statements for.
So nothing against her, obviously.
At all.
But it is a conflict of interest.
A little bit. And if you can't see that, like you're purposely blind, okay?
It does say conflict of interest. There you go.
And then this one says, smells like conflict of interest. And then you've got April of 2020. She's in pictures with
the
family, with Dave Sliker's family. Again, this is fine to have pictures with people's family, but what we're finding is that these pictures were taken years ago and they didn't think anybody would go find these. It's like everything happening is so sloppy right now.
It's very sloppy. And it's also another point to the whole, like, don't look on social media. Don't post on social media.
No kidding.
Nobody would have found this out if Ben Anderson hadn't posted it. And it's just like, they just want you to close your eyes to everything other than their own statements. And it's just.
And what is she referring to? She's referring to Michael Brown's statement, which everybody's like, well, he's not really saying that. He clarified. I wasn't saying to get off social media. I was just saying only post pastoral things. It's like, look, dude, let me just say something. This is the word that came in my spirit over that time when I was hearing all this. The wheat and the tares. Dr. Michael Brown, who I reference about hyper grace and who I respect and appreciate for all of your work. But let the wheat and the tares rise, and let the Lord sift it out, because the voices need to resound right now. Speak for those who cannot speak for themselves. Well, the victims can speak for themselves. Really? You think people are going to want to come out with this type of information about themselves, and that's going to put their families in jeopardy and all this stuff, like their reputation, their family, their marriages? No. Speak for those who can't speak for themselves. Judge fairly. Okay, that's what we're doing.
And on that point, real quick, I will say about the victims and how people saying they need to like come out or whatever. Obviously, we know that's not true, but even I can see why they wouldn't even more because of some of the responses that we've gotten. And we're not even victims. We're not even sharing a personal like story. We're literally reading news articles and posts on Facebook and IHOP's own statements. And we have people like mad at us about it, coming at us. Even
Hive cult mentality.
Yeah. So imagine like what these people are experiencing if their names are out as a victim. Not to mention, we also had somebody really quickly who sent us like a 5-page letter that was kind and explaining their past experiences with like Rick Joyner and Mike Bickle and all. People are telling us a lot of crazy stories from the past that aren't necessarily like were not like part of this, relevant to this, but still it's their stories. And the main point of his was at the end was like, you guys just be careful though, because these guys are wolves and you need to watch your back, is what he said to us. Not from him. Yeah. He was warning us and helping us, and he likes what we're doing. And he's like, continue speaking out, but just know, like, these are
which
wolves.
is one reason why I'm so glad, honestly, that the Lord took me out of ministry, out of paid ministry, because like, again, I don't have a dog in the fight with this. Like, I go help my clients, we take care of people, and then we get to talk about this, and I'm not worried about losing a ministry supporter because of my opinion, which is real nice. All right, so here's another one, a birthday party, and boom, there's Dave Sliker tagged in the pictures. Dave Sliker posting a picture, and she's in the background.
And this one's just from October 22nd. So it's like,
my goodness. So he's hanging out with the third party, unbiased law firm that's going to talk to the victims and really hear them out, and then talk to IHOPKC, and then going to hash this out. No. And this is not against her, because she's probably a great person, but I wouldn't want to be in that position if I were her.
If I was a person victim, there's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way I would go talk to this law firm.
And if I was her as a lawyer, I'd be like, I don't want to be put in that position where I have to like be friends with these people, but then I got to listen on behalf in an unbiased way, but like pretend like I can do that. Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Like, what a joke. Yeah, a couple more pictures here. Yeah. So he says, Audrey, you are a good woman with a good heart. This is Ben Anderson writing this. And good intentions. Don't let Dave Sliker and Stuart Greaves use you to cover up their own tracks. Now, stick with me here. Within an hour of posting this, okay, maybe an hour and a half,
I don't know the time frame.
They go completely dark. When I say they, I say Stuart and Dave Sliker deleted their social media. Completely
Twitter
deleted.
And Facebook.
Twitter, Facebook, everything. I've been friends with Stuart and Sliker for years on social media. I used to work with Stuart personally for a long time, okay? They go silent. And I have people saying, well, that's just a good move because like I'm sure their legal counsel just told them to go off social media, turn off their social media.
I'm like, sure they did, so they wouldn't find any more pictures of y'all hanging out together.
Like, do you want to bury your head in the sand? Like, if you think that I'm bitter and jaded against IHOP, whatever, I can understand why you would just go like to the end, defend these guys. But regardless of where our hearts are at in this or where somebody else's heart, let the wheat and the tares go up. Just take a look at the information and then see if you're just like burying your head in the sand. The best time to delete your social media if you're involved in something stupid is when it gets exposed and then you see it and you go, oh crap, we don't want this to be seen. Boom, delete, go dark. And people are like, well, people are harassing Stuart online saying, we see what you're doing here or there. That's not harassment. And the easiest thing to do is just block that person. I get harassed all the time online. People don't like my opinions. I just block them or I just troll them back. But that is what you do when you are caught and you are on the run. And so anyway, this is not good. None of it's a good look. So even if you don't agree with our opinion on it or our assessment of it, look at the information and none of it's a good look. So you have to decide for yourself, do you trust the current ELT, which is technically right now, the statements are made by Dave Slyker and Stuart Greaves. Do you trust these guys? This is so hard for me to do because I was so looking forward to making a great, reconnection in all those areas. But I care more about the truth in this situation. And if I'm wrong, I'm happy to be wrong, actually. I was hoping to be wrong with all of this. But after all the things I'm being sent now, I'm like, oh, crap, this is real. This is happening. So you can either trust the two on the stage and that are still have the jobs with the organization.
Whose income and livelihood depend on that organization being
exonerated. Or you can trust the former ELT that were still trusted up to the point that they put out this statement. And the MIDI voices and just the information itself. We'll leave it to you.